Okay, well, I've finished my colouring in, and as you can see, I've kept my colour nice and soft and just done that really soft halo around the edges of all our little animals, and that keeps it nice and soft for a baby's card. Now, the way the layers are going to work is we're going to have our soft seafoam die cut layer that goes over the top. Then we're going to have our Whisper White layer, and you can see that foliage now is going in different directions. And then we've got our soft seafoam embossed layer that will be on top. And our foxes look really beautiful, but what about our other images? They're now hidden, we can't see them. So I had originally planned to just gradually tear away each layer to reveal both of those little animals. But I decided that I would like to have some of this beautiful foliage actually around the pandas' faces, and I also wanted a little grassy mound for my little bunnies to sit on. So I thought I'd have a go at using my die to create a little foliage edge around my pandas. And the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to take my Whisper White cardstock piece, and I'm going to use that to audition this. And I'm going to bring it down so I can show you what I'm doing. I'll place it about there, so you can see these little pandas. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a little bit of washi tape, and I'm just going to pop that in the corner here just to hold my cardstock still while I'm moving things around like that. I'm going to take my Whisper White piece, and I'm going to lay this on top and decide what I think would look nice. And I kind of like this part of the die, framing their little faces, and I like that flower in there. But as you can see, the little baby panda's face is a little bit hidden, but that's okay. We can actually snip that little bit of foliage out to reveal his face, so that's not going to be a problem. So I'll pop it about there, and then all I need to do is grab my die, and I need to lay this on top, matching up all the little flowers. And you'll know when it's matched up because it kind of will lock into place, and you'll feel it that it's actually sitting exactly on top. And then what I need to do is take the piece I want to die cut, which is my soft seafoam layer. Just make sure that is round the right way, and it is. And all I need to do is hold my finger down this end of the die, and I'm going to slip my soft seafoam piece of cardstock in underneath the die like that, matching up all my corners on the white piece underneath. So it's actually in place like that. So that's looking good, I think. And then I just need to take some washi tape and just pop some on my die just to hold it in place like that. And now that's ready to run through my die cutting machine. Now you're going to have to sort of run it in at an angle like that, and you're going to have to try and make sure you don't scrunch up your edges into your die cutting machine. So you sort of got to get it even on both sides. But don't worry if you do get a little bit of scrunch, because you won't see this. This is a layer that's sitting underneath. So don't panic if it does fold down a little bit as you're running it through your die cutting machine. So I'll go and do that, and I'll show you how it looks. I've done my die cutting now, and as you can see, doesn't that look beautiful? Our little pandas have now got some foliage around them, and all I've done is I've just trimmed out that little piece that was in there. I've just used my paper snips and I've just trimmed it off, and now it's revealing his face. Now you can also see that I did get some creasing here in my cardstock because I sort of had to run it through in that odd angle. But as I said, this doesn't matter because you're not going to see this. It's going to be tucked away underneath our other layers. And I think it's worth it just to get this lovely little effect around here. Now what about our bunnies? Well, while I was over at the die cutting machine, I also cut a couple of labels. Now, this is also out of the Petal Labels dies. You actually get 3 dies. So you get the one we've been using for the center hole, but you also get this beautiful smaller die that's great for labels, and you also get the little oval die that cuts out the center. So out of my scraps that we had left over, I've cut one Whisper White label, foliage label, and I've cut the soft sea foam oval, and that will be for our sentiment that we'll work on later. Now I've also cut out of my scraps a piece of soft sea foam in the label, the foliage label as well. And what I'm going to do with that is I'm going to use that for the mound of the hill for my bunnies. So I think I sort of like this lighter edge. It looks like grass to me. So what I'll do is I'll line it up like this to where I sort of like it, where it looks like they're a little bit hidden behind the grass and they're sitting on a hill. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to glue that in place, then I'm going to flip it over and I'm going to trim this off along the bottom, and then I have my little hill. So I'll do that and be back and show you how we're going to tear our Whisper White cardstock layer. So this is what that looks like now. You can see that looks like a little grassy mound that our cute little bunnies are sitting on. And I've also torn my soft sea foam piece so that you can see the bunnies underneath. And you can just do this roughly, it doesn't really matter, as long as you can see those bunnies, and that will sit over the top. Now we have to tear our next layer, which is our Whisper White layer. So to do that, I'm going to lay this on first, and then I'm going to lay my soft sea foam. Sorry guys, I have trouble saying this name, I don't know why. Anyway, we're going to lay that over the top like that, and we're going to take a pencil and we're just going to mark where our other opening finishes, just sort of roughly to give us an idea of where we need to tear. So I'm just going to very lightly go around here like that, so you have some guidelines. And then all we're going to do then is just tear this just a little bit away from that line, because we want to expose a little bit more of that soft sea foam cardstock. And so I'm just going to tear that away like that, and I'm going to do the same thing along this edge also. Like that. So when we pop it on top, you can line it up and see if you like it. If you want a little bit more torn away so you can see a little bit more of the green, you can go ahead and do that. I'll probably, actually, I might tear a little bit away, a little bit more of this one. Like that. And you can have a look and see what you think. And that's looking pretty good. So now we have to also tear our top embossed layer. And I'm going to sort of, what I thought for this layer is I just want to sort of tear across and tear across like that, just to reveal it underneath and just to give a bit of variation in my tears. So all I'm going to do again is line it all up like that. And I'm just going to have a peep underneath, and I'm just going to grab a ruler, and you don't want to be tearing across right on this. You want to come in a little bit. So I'm just going to go here and just make sure I've sort of cleared that white, and I have. And what I'm going to do is just bend this up like that, about where I want to tear it. And then I can just tear this piece off. Now remember to be really careful when you're coming near your oval. Just keep your finger there so you don't tear into that space like that. Like that. That looks pretty good. And we're going to repeat that for the other corner. So we just want to make sure that these bits that aren't embossed are removed. So make sure we've got our bunny's ear. You can see the bunny's ear, I think so. You can tear a little bit more off if it's not quite right. I'm going to do the same thing. Just tearing that off like that. And I need a little bit more off here. And I think that looks pretty nice. What do you think? I think I'm happy with those layers. Okay, so what I want to do next is I want to actually give a little bit of a distressed look to this top layer. And to do that, I'm going to take my Whisper White Craft Stampin' Pad. This is a white pigment ink. And I'm just going to do a direct to paper swipe of my ink. And I'm just going to try and pick up the tops of those woven pieces. So if you can see that compared to the other, just highlights it. And it softens it down as well. It's all about keeping, when you're doing babies things, keeping it nice and soft. Like that. You can use the corner of your stamp pad in these smaller areas. Doesn't have to be even. You can put a little bit on your finger if you wanted a bit extra here and there to add variation. You can just pop a bit on your finger and add it here and there. Like that. Now I'm just going to dry that off and I'll be back to do some embossing. Well, now we're going to be doing some embossing on our project, and I'm going to be using my Versamark ink for that, and I'm also going to be using some Shimmer White Stampin' Emboss powder, which is really shimmery and really lovely. So all I'm going to do is get a sponge finger dauber, and I'm going to put some on my dauber, and I'm wanting to actually emboss this foliage on our Whisper White cardstock. So I'm just going to dab this Versamark all the way around. Okay, I think that's got it covered. So now I'm just going to tip my embossing powder over the top, and I have a piece of scrap paper underneath to catch any excess. Okay, flick off the excess. And if there's any spaces you've missed, you can just pick up a little bit more like that. Just dab it in if you think you've missed a bit. Like that. And now I'm going to heat set it and I'll be back. Well, how pretty does that look now that I've heat embossed it? It just adds a little bit more texture and a little bit more shimmer underneath that. But I need to add a little bit more because I want to tie it into the project. So I'm actually going to do these edges, these torn edges as well. And to do that, it's just a matter of rubbing out the edge of our Versamark pad along those edges like that. Like that. And then we're going to bring our scrap paper back in and our embossing powder and add that to the edge. Like that, and I'm going to heat set that and also do the other side. Okay, I've got my embossing all done now. I've done both of these edges and I've done all my foliage in my embossing. I've got my ink out. I'm actually going to ink around the edges of my top piece, my top embossed piece, and it's just a matter of running my finger dauber just around the edges like that. Like that. And I've gone all around that torn edge all around, and I've also put some inside this oval as well. That just gives a little bit of contrast to our layers. So that's that. Now that we're up to actually layering our card, and to do that you're going to need your thick piece of Whisper White cardstock that we've scored and folded in half. And we're going to begin by gluing down this first layer. So that will get glued down there, like that. Then we glue our second layer down, which is our soft sea foam. Then our Whisper White piece, we'll glue that down on top of that. And finally our embossed layer will get glued down on top as well. So I'll go ahead and glue down all my layers and we'll be back ready for some embellishing.